During our 3rd year of being engaged, the news of Clara's public confession to her ex-boyfriend became the top trending topic online. This time, however, I didn't intervene. I submitted my resignation from my senior position at the S Group, gathered all the jewelry gifted to me by the White family, and informed Clara that we should call off the engagement. She offered a smirk, a flash of mockery in her eyes. "A strategic retreat, is it?" she said. "Just so you know, I didn't even bother attending the engagement party, and I'll be the one to decide if I feel like showing up to the wedding," she added with a dismissive wave. "You can put up with anything for a piece of the company shares." The moment I stepped into the S Group offices, the usual morning chatter died down instantly. I was battling a migraine from a lack of sleep, but I could still feel the subtle glances from my colleagues, a mixture of pity and amusement. As I walked into my office, the whispers started up again outside my door. The voice of a new intern was particularly sharp and indignant. "Clara has gone too far this time," she complained. "To have a fiancé as wonderful as Leo and still—" It was just another rumor about Clara. For the past 3 years, every time she found herself at the center of a scandal, she remained silent. It always fell to me to manage the media and the public fallout. The S Group had a dedicated public relations team that ensured I was the first to know before any story blew up. Over those 3 years, I had grown accustomed to the online harassment and had become immune to the looks of sympathy and scorn. The comments online were always the same. "He's so in love with her." I rubbed my temples, trying to shut out the noise with a blank expression. I gave a slight nod to the person waiting patiently by my desk. Today was my last day wrapping up my duties, the official end of my career at the S Group. Chloe, after organizing a stack of materials on my desk, didn't leave as she normally would have. She was of mixed heritage, and her deep blue eyes were fixed on me. "Why are you resigning?" she asked suddenly. "Even after all this, are you still planning to marry her?" Chloe had been my assistant for 3 years, and this was the first time she had ever so bluntly asked about my personal life. I tilted my head, slightly puzzled by her boldness. She held up her phone, pointing to the screen. It was an interview video featuring my fiancée, Clara, alongside the rising star Ethan, fresh from completing a film project together. The two were obviously close, teasing one another with an easy familiarity. Clara's expressive eyes curved into a beautiful crescent shape, a smile gracing her lips that I hadn't seen since she was 18 and rebelling to pursue her acting dream. A reporter asked for her first impression of Ethan. Clara tilted her head, her lips curling playfully. "Lively and free," she said. Ethan's face, already bright, flushed with a bashful but brilliant smile. My gaze froze when I noticed the pendant hanging from Ethan's phone. It was a delicately crafted snowflake made of dazzling diamonds, with a tiny, preserved snow blossom at its center. It was a birthday gift I had once given to Clara. Then, the reporter asked what kind of person Clara was attracted to. Her expression darkened slightly, and her response seemed entirely disconnected from the question. "I despise people who just conform," she stated flatly, "and willingly become someone's lapdog." The reporter pressed on. "That sounds like the complete opposite of Mr. Ethan. It said you two attended the same high school. Is Ethan your type?" I already knew how she would answer. In the next second, Clara admitted it boldly. "He has been ever since I was 18. The screen was immediately flooded with pink, heart-filled comments from their fans, obscuring the silhouettes of the two stars. It was a sea of supportive messages about their undeniable chemistry. A single, solitary comment stood out in black text. "But doesn't Clara have a fiancé?" Fans were quick to dismiss it. "They don't even have rings. Clara didn't even show up to her own engagement ceremony. They've been engaged for years and still aren't married. It's obviously just for PR." Another commenter added, "What era are you living in? Still supporting arranged marriages like it's the old days?" The subsequent news report showed the two of them leaving a bar late at night, with captions suggesting they were heading back to a hotel together. I calmly handed the phone back to Chloe. "Chloe," I said, "please draft a statement to officially call off the engagement." I had initially planned to write it myself, to give a personal sense of closure to these 3 years, but now it all seemed pointless. This was the first time I had ever entrusted a task related to Clara to someone else. Chloe's eyes widened, and her voice trembled slightly. "Okay," she said. She rarely showed such emotion. Watching her hurry out of my office, I was surprised by how invested the usually quiet and meticulous Chloe seemed to be. A throbbing pain, like needles piercing my temples, started up again. As I rubbed them, a wave of long-suppressed exhaustion washed over me. But it wasn't finished. There was one last thing I had to do. I must have dozed off while waiting on the couch, because the sound of Clara's footsteps woke me. She leaned in close, so close I could almost feel the flutter of her eyelashes against my cheek. Seeing that I was awake, she pulled back, a frown creasing her brow. Her expressive eyes were icy, completely devoid of the warmth I'd seen in her interview. "Do you need something from me?" she asked. The faint scent of alcohol still clung to her, and her shirt was unbuttoned just enough to reveal a faint, reddish mark near her collarbone that looked suspiciously like a hickey. I averted my gaze and spoke calmly. "Clara, we need to talk." Clara scoffed. "Are you trying to convince me for my mother again? Just give it up. I have zero interest in inheriting the S Group. Isn't having you as her little puppet enough for her?" "She's approved my resignation," I replied. Clara paused in the middle of unbuttoning her shirt, her eyebrows furrowed with impatience. Resignation? Did she finally realize none of her tricks were working and decide to plant a mole in my life instead? I repeated the same words I had said to her countless times, with a steady patience I had cultivated over the years. "She's a very busy woman. She doesn't have the time to trouble you." It was the truth. The White family's business empire was in a completely different industry from the entertainment world. Clara wasn't professionally trained as an actress. Her stunning face was the primary asset that had catapulted her to stardom. The industry was full of hidden dangers, and in her early days, Clara faced many obstacles. She stubbornly believed that her mother was intentionally sabotaging her, just as she had blamed me in high school for her mother knowing her every move. Disdainfully, Clara shook her head, as if shooing away an annoying insect. "If it wasn't for my grandmother's last wish, who would ever want to marry you? I'm at the peak of my career right now. I don't have time for a wedding. Just let me know the time and place, and I'll see if I feel like showing up." Her lips curled into that familiar, sarcastic smile. "Besides, you'd endure anything for the S Group shares, wouldn't you?" The S Group was founded by Clara's grandmother and later inherited by her mother, Isabella. Once Isabella took over, she devoted herself entirely to the business, which meant Clara was raised primarily by her grandmother. 12 years ago, on a rainy day, my biological father came home after a 2-day gambling binge. His eyes were bloodshot as he held a belt, demanding the last of the savings my mother had left me. If I handed it over, I wouldn't have money for food. But if I didn't, I was afraid he would beat me to death. I didn't want to die. I wanted to eat. I wanted to go to school. I ran desperately through the pouring rain, with no idea where I was going, until I stumbled out onto a busy road. If the White family's driver hadn't slammed on the brakes in time, I would have certainly been killed. I collapsed onto the wet pavement, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst from my chest. Rain and tears blurred my vision, and the sound of traffic roared in my ears. Then, a pair of warm hands helped me up. Someone gently held me and used a soft handkerchief to wipe the dirt from my face. I opened my eyes and saw a young girl, Clara, her dark eyes filled with concern. "Leo, are you okay?" My father was already pinned to the ground by the family's driver, his scruffy face pressed against the filthy, wet pavement, still cursing non-stop. In my shock and fear, I collapsed into Clara's arms. When I woke up, I was in a hospital room. Clara's hair was damp against her pale forehead, and her eyes were shadowed with weariness as she sat beside my bed, tossing an apple up and down. Seeing me awake, she smiled. "Hey, Mr. Valedictorian, I'm Clara." Then she casually picked up a knife and started peeling the apple. "Don't worry, your awful dad has been dealt with." I timidly thanked her and couldn't help but ask, "Do you know me?" She butchered the apple peel and ended up tossing the whole thing aside. Then she smiled again. "Everyone knows the genius from our school." Raised as a sheltered, wealthy young lady, this was likely the closest she had ever come to such a harsh reality. She flatly refused my offer to repay her, looking at me with pure pity. "Your dad's really something else. Since we ran into each other, this is my business now. Don't worry about it. The one thing the Whites don't lack is money." That night she went home and asked Isabella to adopt me. Of course, Isabella rejected the idea, but my ailing grandmother said the house felt too lonely, and given Clara's less-than-stellar grades, I should live with them, to tutor Clara in exchange for my keep. For the first 2 years, Clara treated me like a little brother. She was always bringing me strange snacks and shiny trinkets she thought boys would like. She once showed off a snowflake bracelet she bought while skipping class, trying to get me to call her big sister. After hesitating for a while, I just called her Clara. She sighed in exasperation. "Leo, you're so stingy." Isabella wasn't interested in me, caught up as she was in power struggles within the company, so we barely saw each other. That changed when my academic competition trophies started to fill up a small room. Her gaze toward me became increasingly satisfied, and she began calling me to her study to test my knowledge, even hiring special coaches to prepare me for international competitions. Throughout college, I rotated through various departments at the S Group. After we got engaged, Isabella decided I would join the S Group's senior management as Clara's fiancé. Clara's relationship with her mother had always been rocky. Apart from their similar striking beauty, Clara was nothing like her. Skipping class, getting into fights, dating, she had no interest in business and declared she wanted to pursue a career in the entertainment industry with Ethan. During Clara's teenage years, their relationship worsened. After one particularly big fight, Isabella shouted, "Why can't you be half as easy to deal with as Leo?" before slamming the door. Clara watched coldly as I awkwardly tried to console her. "Are you her lapdog?" she asked suddenly. I was stunned. "Clara, why do you blindly follow her orders, learning whatever she wants you to, practicing day and night like a robot just to bring home those trophies for her to show off? Do you even have your own thoughts? Do you know what you like or enjoy? I'm the one who brought you into this house, yet you're siding with her." Her gaze grew icy. "Leo, no matter what you do, she's never going to give you any shares." I later realized there were always voices around her, whispering that Isabella was raising an orphan because her own daughter was a disappointment, that she was looking for a new heir. I felt I had to prove myself to show I wasn't after her inheritance. I opened my mouth to say that I truly wasn't, but it was a weak argument. As someone being sponsored, not a child of the White family, what could I offer in return besides good grades and obedience? Clara suddenly leaned close, and I could smell the sharp, woody scent on her. "We're racing motorcycles at the back mountain tomorrow. If you want me to believe you're not scheming for something, show up. Then I'll trust you." She knew I had a competition the next day, one that Isabella valued highly. She had specifically asked about it and even arranged for 2 new tutors to help me prepare. The next day I went to the competition. I finished early and immediately saw the news on my phone. The illegal racetrack at the mountain had been permanently shut down by the police. A message from Clara popped up. "No wonder my mom knows everything about Ethan and me skipping class. It turns out you're the snitch." I texted back, "I'm not." only to receive a red exclamation mark in return. My number had been blocked. Doubt had turned into an accusation, and she had no intention of hearing my side of the story. I turned off my screen, my mind a blank slate. But I didn't regret my choice. I couldn't tolerate the thought of any potential accident happening to Clara. After that incident, I was likely categorized by Clara as just another part of the family that suffocated her, stuck in my ways, cautious and obedient. The exact opposite of her first love, Ethan. Ethan was flamboyant, even back in high school. He landed a role in a Hollywood movie thanks to his looks, stayed abroad for school, and that's when he and Clara broke up. If it weren't for her grandmother's dying wish, her hope that the two children she loved most would always be together, Clara would never have agreed to the engagement, not even if we were the last two people on Earth. She didn't even show up for the engagement party, only appearing stiffly for the photos that her grandmother would see. The rings were bought by Isabella. I wore both of them for 3 years, a one-man show of a relationship that Clara never once asked about. In her will, her grandmother left me 5% of the company shares, on the condition that Clara and I got married. This probably only reinforced Clara's suspicion that I was scheming for the White family's wealth. But by then, I had stopped caring what she thought. Today, all of that was finally coming to an end. I touched the faint indentation on my ring finger, thinking how even this small mark felt like a joke. I exhaled slowly. "It's not about a wedding," I said. "It's about breaking off an engagement. The asset list and the jewelry are in the bedroom. You can check them if you want." On the bedroom nightstand, the 2 engagement rings held down a list of assets, alongside all the jewelry my grandmother had given me. "I don't want any of it." Clara paused, tossing her jacket onto the couch and frowning at me. "Don't think I don't know what you're doing. You got a psychology degree in college. Are you trying to use reverse psychology on me now?" She rubbed her forehead. "Wow, we're not even married yet, and you're already trying to settle accounts. How exactly do we reckon the cost of the White family putting you through school and raising you?" "I've already settled that account with Isabella," I said. After reading my resignation letter, Isabella had remained silent for a long time. I lit a mint-flavored cigarette for her. Halfway through it, she finally spoke. "My mother completely lost her mind at the end, and you stayed with her through it all. The S Group's successful transformation tripled our profits, and that is mostly thanks to you. Without you keeping an eye on Clara, I couldn't have focused on the business." Isabella took a light drag from the cigarette. "Leo, Clara is young. She just doesn't know how to cherish what she has." I smiled faintly. "I wouldn't be where I am today without you, Isabella." She sighed, her sharp eyes showing a rare hint of fatigue through the smoke. "Where do you plan on going next?" I thought of the distant, snow-capped mountains and the thrill of climbing. For the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of relief. "I've figured it out." Isabella finished her cigarette, pressing the stub into the ashtray. Her normally stern face softened as she patted my hand gently. "Remember to come back and visit. The White's home is your home too." I didn't want to waste any more words with Clara, so I stood up to leave. But she suddenly grabbed my wrist, her dark eyes staring straight into mine, a flicker of nervousness in her grip. "Where are you going?" She glanced around the living room, and, not seeing any luggage, seemed to let out a small breath. "There's just one more thing," I said. "Can I have the snowflake pendant back?" The gifts I had given Clara over the years were mostly tossed aside, without a second glance. The snowflake, however, she had kept hanging from her phone, probably forgetting it was even there. "Judging from all the rumors," I added, "you have a million ways to win Ethan over. If possible, just give it to Chloe. She'll pass it on to me." Clara's hand released my wrist abruptly, and she seemed to relax. She lounged back on the couch, a faint dimple appearing on her left cheek. "So that's what this is about today. Are you jealous?" She laughed. "It was just for the promotional tour. We have nothing to do with each other now. I interrupted her. You don't owe me any explanation. Having said everything I needed to, I intended to leave without any further entanglement. Clara's amused voice called out from behind me. Come back soon. I drank too much. I'll feel better after some of your porridge in the morning. I paused for a moment. Once, when Clara was filming abroad, she had drunkenly called me, complaining about a stomachache. I flew out immediately to take care of her, even though I had been working non-stop for a month. The next day, when she was sober, her first reaction upon seeing me was to coldly ask, What are you doing here? Foolish, wasn't it? Goodbye, Clara, I said. Make sure it's the millet and pumpkin kind, she replied lazily. I headed straight for the airport. 10 hours later, I was at the foot of a snow-capped mountain. After checking into a motel in the small town, I turned off my phone and slept for a full day and night. If it weren't for the enthusiastic motel owner waking me up for dinner, I might have kept on sleeping. I splashed some cold water on my face and looked at myself in the mirror. My naturally cool demeanor and tired eyes made me look like I could step right onto the set of a somber drama. Clara once acted in an award-winning film that was a drama. She was incredibly hard-working, even shooting a scene with real sewer rats without using a body double. Afterward, she ended up showering countless times and clung to me for a week, though she barked at me not to overthink it. I was genuinely happy then, thinking we had finally grown closer. I patted my face, trying to shake off the memories. The long sleep hadn't left me refreshed. Instead, it felt like all the accumulated fatigue had rushed back, leaving me feeling lifeless from head to toe. I drifted downstairs in a daze and stared at the bowl of warm millet porridge on the table. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of a familiar figure. Chloe? I blurted out in surprise. The person turned around at the sound, revealing deep, ocean-blue eyes. It was unmistakably Chloe. What are you doing here? Did something happen at the company? Chloe strode over and sat down next to me. I'm here for a month-long mountain expedition. It was the same reason I was here. It felt suspicious, but I remembered Chloe mentioning her passion for hiking on her Ivy League resume. She had even led her university's hiking club. Before I left, I had specifically asked Isabella to promote Chloe, so she should have been incredibly busy. How did she have the time? Chloe gently shook her head and moved the side dishes to the right of my porridge bowl. I resigned, she said. I frowned. You've been with me for so long. Who would dare give you trouble? The board of directors is full of old fossils, I muttered, reaching for my phone before realizing I had left it in my room. Chloe lightly pressed my wrist. No one was troubling me. It just doesn't hold any meaning for me anymore. I stopped prying, respecting her privacy. If you need any help, let me know. I do have some connections. Chloe had already peeled 2 shrimps and placed them on my plate. Her smile was gentle, her deep blue eyes shimmering. I'll thank you in advance then, Leo. I popped a shrimp in my mouth, thinking to myself that I shouldn't be worried. With Chloe's looks, she could easily become a model and never go hungry. But then my hand shook, and I dropped my shrimp. Chloe raised an eyebrow. Do you really think you're in any shape to handle a mountain climb? The difficulty isn't that high, I waved it off. We'll be fine once the team plans the route. Then I knocked over my chopsticks. Bending over to pick them up, I heard the distinct cracking of my spine. It seemed the toll that my work had taken on me was worse than I thought. Chloe looked at me with concern. Leo, the weather on Maiso Mountain is really unpredictable, and it requires a lot of physical strength. She added, I know a bit about massage. I can help you with some recovery training. Consider it an advance thank you for the recommendation. I hadn't expected that after working for just a few years, I'd end up in this state, but I reluctantly agreed. The motel owner passed by with a broom in his hand, winking at me as he whispered, Haven't seen you in a while. That crush of yours finally came true, huh? Your girlfriend's quite a looker. No wonder you were crying your eyes out holding that chunk of ice back then. Embarrassed, I replied. We're not. Chloe seemed not to hear him and said, Leo, should we start now? Chloe's room was, surprisingly, right next to mine. As we sat around the campfire that night, I couldn't hold back my questions any longer. I turned to stare at her serene expression, searching for any hint of a hidden agenda. Chloe, I began, I haven't missed a single salary payment in these 3 years, have I? Did you come all this way to hunt me down for something? Chloe hesitated, then looked at me, her blue eyes reflecting the dancing flames. Leo, do you remember Rosy Snow Mountain? She exhaled deeply. I'm the one you found. Rosy Snow Mountain is the most challenging climb in the country. Legend says a mountain god guards its summit. The weather is brutal and constantly changing, and many climbers have lost their lives on its slopes. At that time, our team was halfway up when we heard that someone from another team had gotten lost in a blizzard. Instead of continuing our ascent, I joined the search party. I was lucky enough to find her, nearly buried in the snow. Surprised, I exclaimed, That was you? You have no idea how heavy you were. I was worried we'd both get stuck up there before we could reunite with the team. Chloe acknowledged my words with a nod, her focus solely on me. You promised you would climb Rosie with me again. I remembered then, in the middle of that raging wind, with snow swirling everywhere, I had dragged her heavy body along, talking loudly to keep our spirits up. I had said that we had to survive because I wanted to see Clara again and reach Rosie's summit. Thinking of Clara brought a familiar heaviness to my chest. I forced a smile. I'm planning to go by the end of the year. If you're interested, you're welcome to join. This cleared up some of my questions, so I joked. No wonder someone with your background came to work as my assistant. You're here to settle old scores. Chloe nodded. I asked your team. They said you never climbed again after that. Climbing Rosie had been my most impulsive decision, made right after my grandmother passed away. I'm not one for superstitions, but I'd heard that the mountain god could grant any wish to those who reached the summit. I wanted to wish for my grandmother to have a healthy and smooth next life. I stared at the campfire, admitting, Back then, my debts kept me grounded. I couldn't afford for anything to go wrong. Things are different now. I'm alone, free to pursue whatever I want. Why do you like climbing? Chloe asked. I hesitated. Maybe it was the beer talking, but I began to speak honestly before I could stop myself on. During the climb, all you can focus on is the climb itself. Once you reach the summit, you feel so tiny. All your loves, all your pains, they seem insignificant in the vastness of the wilderness. It's like you become a part of the mountain. I played with the beer bottle in my hand, murmuring, I love that feeling. Chloe listened silently, her gaze almost too intense to bear, so I changed the subject. Was the engagement cancellation announced? It was, Chloe responded quietly. I pressed further. Did Clara give you the diamond snowflake? She shook her head. The next day she went straight to Isabella's office. She didn't give me anything. Chloe took a sip from her drink, the firelight dancing in her eyes. Is that snowflake important? Taking a sip of my own drink, I swirled the amber liquid in the bottle. Not really. It's just that the first mountain I ever summited was Maiso. I took a flower from the top and preserved it in resin so it would never melt. Even the diamond mounts were bought with my own prize money. To others, it might be worthless, but it holds a certain meaning for me. How you treat a gift depends entirely on how important the sender is to you. Clara had always worn the pinky ring Ethan gave her in high school. As I was spacing out, a voice broke through my thoughts. Chloe's words froze me. Not worthless at all. I looked up. Her eyes were slightly red. It's very romantic. If it were me, I'd cherish it for a lifetime. Perplexed, I glanced at her, finding Chloe unusually empathetic. With stories like these, I could almost imagine her listening to late-night emotional radio shows, crying into her pillow and biting her blanket. I couldn't help but laugh, and the sound made me feel much lighter. Chloe silently took the drink from my hand, shifting the focus. "Rest early. We'll train together tomorrow." I began to suspect that the S group didn't pay Chloe enough. She seemed to moonlight as a personal trainer at a gym, and perhaps had a side hustle as a blind masseuse. She designed a thorough recovery program for me, and her massage skills were surprisingly professional. After just one session, I felt light and strong. I couldn't help but ask her, "How do you know all of this?" Chloe just laughed softly. "I learned it after that descent from the mountain." She was also incredibly knowledgeable about climbing gear. When I had left the White's estate intending to buy supplies, I found that Chloe had already prepared everything. On top of that, she was an excellent cook, using the guest house kitchen to prepare our meals. After sampling her cooking a few times, the motel owner was completely won over. Stroking his full belly, he mused aloud while watching Chloe wash the dishes. Such a perfect combination of good looks and capability. If she's not your girlfriend, can she stay? We need that kind of talent here. He added sincerely, "We really need these multi-talented individuals." Chloe paused her washing, a smile playing on her lips. "Nope," I replied. "I'm keeping her for myself." The sound of running water resumed, and I noticed her ears had turned red. The owner shook his head with theatrical despair, railing against the evils of capitalist exploitation as he walked away. I had always known Chloe was meticulous at work, but I hadn't realized how thoroughly she took care of others as well. Watching her dry her hands and walk over, I marveled. "It's only been a few days, and I feel like I can't live without you." Chloe's eyes sparkled, her smile drawing me in. Her features were like a sculpted masterpiece, and her blue eyes shimmered like sapphires set in stone. Flexing my wrist, I pondered her unofficial new role as my life assistant. "Are you interested in staying on as my assistant for longer?" I offered. "I'll pay you according to the S Group standards. You won't lose out." Chloe's smile faded, and the air around her seemed to drop a few degrees. After a pause, she muttered, "No need, Leo. Just consider me a spirit of service." "No way," I insisted. "Relying on someone's debt of gratitude isn't my style." We were set to climb the next day, so I prepared a separate bank card to give her after our descent. Next to it lay my phone, which had been silent for far too long. I held it for a moment, then finally plugged it in and turned it on. I expected to see missed calls and a barrage of Clara's biting messages. As it powered on, an endless stream of messages and missed call notifications popped up, freezing my phone entirely. Staring at the unresponsive device, I stood there, stunned. A familiar wave of exhaustion hit me. I tossed the phone in my hand, considering just chucking it into the bonfire outside. But the nearest bank was a 2-hour drive from this small town. And nowadays, anywhere with an internet connection doesn't truly let you escape from the world. I sighed and resigned myself to looking at my phone again once it finally started working. I scrolled to the top and saw a message from Clara, sent the day after I left. It read, "Leo, if you have any guts, you won't regret this." A few days later, she forwarded a news article. I clicked on it. It was a clarification video. Clara stared directly into the camera. Before the reporter could even finish speaking, she said, "The part where I talked about my ideal type in a previous interview was just me reenacting a scene from the show. Mr. Ethan and I are only collaborators. We have no private relationship whatsoever. Anyone spreading rumors should get ready to be sued." Her eyes were bloodshot, with a hint of an unexplainable obsession. The comment section was buzzing. Is Clara planning on officially pursuing Ethan now that she's broken off her engagement? Am I the only one who noticed she's wearing a ring? There wasn't one during the engagement, but now there is. I seriously suspect she's already engaged to Ethan. Regarding the speculation about Ethan, Clara had consistently replied to comments with, "No, the engagement isn't off." I rewound the video and saw that she had taken off her usual pinky ring and was now wearing an engagement ring. I closed the video with a blank expression and skimmed past a long series of messages from her. "Aren't you going to fulfill Grandma's last wishes? Leo, have you no conscience? The White family raised you to be who you are, and you just quit on them? The competitors are making their moves, and the S Group's stock price has dropped. Are you being responsible? I haven't agreed to breaking off the engagement, and I won't sign anything. Why did you let the S Group release a statement so quickly? How could you just leave without taking a single thing? Don't you have any sense of safety, being out there all alone? Did my mother tell you to keep an eye on me? Why won't you listen to her as well?" Leo, giving the snowflake to Ethan was a mistake. I didn't give him your things. Leo, I can't sleep. I'm drunk. Come and get me, Leo. My stomach hurts. If you don't come, I might just die of pain. The messages had stopped 2 days ago. The last one said, "Leo, why can't I find you anymore?" She had called 78 times that night. I turned off the screen, feeling an indescribable headache building. If this had been years ago, if Clara had needed me, I would have ignored her sharp words and felt a joy I couldn't suppress. But now, it just made me feel nauseous, like watching someone force themselves to eat spoiled food. I looked at the shadowy, snow-capped mountains outside and thought that maybe I should just throw my phone in the fire after all. But then the screen lit up again with a new message. "Open the door!" An urgent, angry knock sounded at my door. I bit my lip and reluctantly got up to open it. As soon as the door swung open, a dark figure, cold from the wind and snow, hugged me tightly. Clara, with gritted teeth, whispered in my ear, "Leo, you jerk! How could you just disappear? No one would tell me where you were. I thought you were dead." Her breath was icy against my ear, making me shiver. I broke free from her grip. "Miss White, we have no relationship now. Please have some self-respect." Her eyes seemed to burn with fire as she grabbed my wrist again. "No relationship? Was picking you up off the street no relationship? The White family found the evidence to have your biological father heavily sentenced so he could never be released. Is that not a relationship? Your so-called breaking off documents? I didn't sign them, and I don't acknowledge the statement you posted. You own 5% of the S Group stocks, and I am your fiancé. Doesn't that count for enough?" As her voice turned into a buzzing sound in my ears, I shouted with an unexpected sharpness, I know the White family's kindness to me. I don't need you to keep reminding me. You saved me. Your grandmother loved me. Your mother trained me. Clara, what do you want me to do? Skip class with you? Be your agent abroad? Fight alongside you against Isabella?" Isabella was battling with the board of directors until just a year ago. If the company's transformation had been unsuccessful, the S Group would have faced bankruptcy, losing the hard-built legacy of both your grandmother and your mother. Could you bear to see them squeezed into a small, 40-square-meter apartment, drowning in debt? If I don't do everything perfectly, do you think Isabella would turn a blind eye to your actions? Clara, while you were overseas performing, Grandma's Alzheimer's grew so severe that she could talk to a mirror all day long. She wasn't against you chasing your dreams, but not everyone's life revolves around you. Everyone is busy with their own lives. No one has time to be a roadblock for you. Clara watched me silently, then suddenly reached out to touch my face. I flinched as she did, spotting the cold droplets of water on her hands. The prideful Clara, who usually held her head so high, now looked down at the water on her fingertips, murmuring, "I'm sorry. I couldn't even feel myself crying." It was as if the exhaustion itself was speaking through me now. "Clara, yes. I was the one who reported the back mountain motorcycle track. I went to check it out overnight. There were no guardrails, no barriers, no emergency services, and the nearest hospital was 5 kilometers away. I couldn't bear the thought of you getting hurt. But aside from that, I have never monitored you." "I believe you," Clara whispered. They were words I had never heard from her before, but now they were said far too late. "Go home," I replied. "I don't want the stocks. I've earned every penny I have by working for it. If you think I still owe the White family, so be it. But let's not contact each other anymore." Clara looked up sharply. Her eyes reddened. She tried to hug me again. "No!" Startled by my fierce movement to pull away, my head knocked hard against the half-open door. Just then, Chloe came down the stairs. She dashed over swiftly and slapped Clara across the face. Chloe steadied me, worry filling her eyes. "Leo, are you okay?" Clara, bewildered, fell to the ground, a trickle of blood at the corner of her lip. She looked up, anger brewing in her eyes. "Is she your assistant? Leo, did you leave me for her?" A wave of absurdity washed over me, and I couldn't stop myself from chuckling. I didn't even understand why I had wasted my breath earlier. Clara's first reaction was always suspicion. She had never trusted me. Maybe her friends' rumors had influenced her initially, but ultimately, she chose to believe them. I stared at Clara, at those stormy eyes that once held a personality of such vivid tales, a personality that had supported me through countless sleepless nights and onto so many stages. But if it required years of effort, real forfeited interests, and hoarse shouting just to gain this little bit of trust from her, then I simply didn't want it anymore. She was once the light of my youth, but now I would rather I had never met her. "Yeah," I said flatly. "I've been sneaking around with Chloe all along. I'm calling off our engagement because I feel guilty. That's just the kind of person I am. You should set off some fireworks and celebrate getting away from me." Chloe stepped in front of me, her voice as cold as ice. "Miss White, please stop harassing my boyfriend. Otherwise, I won't mind handling this my way." I looked at Chloe, puzzled. She was really getting into character fast. Suddenly, the sound of police sirens filled the yard. The police arrived just in time to catch Clara lunging at Chloe, yelling. The motel owner came running out of breath and carrying a wooden stick. "Leo, I'm here!" As Clara was being taken away, she shouted at me, "Leo, I'm your fiancé!" I scoffed. "You didn't even show up to the engagement party." Clara's face turned pale, her lips trembling, unable to say another word. After I called Isabella, she told me to let Clara cool her heels in a cell for a couple of days. "She'll come to her senses," she said. Turning around, I saw Chloe kneeling by the bed, testing the water temperature in a basin with the back of her hand. She explained softly, "Your hands are freezing. Soaking your feet before bed will make you more comfortable." I did as she suggested, watching as she applied ointment to the bump on my forehead, and then wrung out a hot towel to wipe my face. Feeling a bit awkward, I quickly took the towel from her to clean myself. "I'm not a kid. You don't need to be so considerate." Chloe just hummed, a hint of a smile in her deep blue eyes. "It's a boyfriend's privilege." I felt a bit embarrassed and apologized. "Sorry, Chloe, for dragging you into all this mess." Chloe shook her head. "Even if it's fake, I'm honored." I secretly decided to double her pay for the month and add a little extra for emotional damages. Jokingly, I said, "You act so well. Maybe you should pursue a career in the entertainment industry. It's got to be better than being my assistant." "I wasn't acting," Chloe replied. "I like you. It's not an act." And with that, she casually dropped a bombshell and walked out, leaving me stunned with my mouth half open on the edge of the bed. After a moment, she returned casually with a cup of warm milk, placing it on the nightstand with a gentle, "If you can't sleep, come find me. I'll be just outside." As she started to leave, I quickly called out, "Chloe." She came back to the bedside, looking at me intently. If that's the reason you're by my side, I said, then I'm sorry. I'm not really considering a relationship right now, and honestly, I might not ever. I finally have the time to do what I want. In the next 10 years, I want to climb the tallest mountains, the ones that haven't been conquered yet, and maybe I'll try free climbing too. I won't deny that I have feelings for you, but that's about it. Chloe's eyes lit up at my mention of having feelings for her. I couldn't help but feel that if she had a tail, it would be wagging furiously. Wait here a second, she said. In less than a minute, she handed me a personal resume. Unlike the professional resume I had seen before, this one detailed every bit of information about Chloe. Her education from childhood, her personal data up to last month's financial status, and all of her family members. As I flipped through it, I couldn't believe my eyes. Your dad is the CEO of KWT Group? I thought about the salary card I paid her with and her list of personal assets, and I felt a pang of irony. Here I was, trying to aid the rich. When I reached the personal data section, I felt my face heat up and quickly closed the folder, putting it aside. Chloe knelt by the bed, her deep blue eyes sincere. Leo, she said, the first time I saw you was at the national math competition in our junior year. I've liked you since then. I'm showing you this not for any particular reason, but to tell you that I am a healthy, intelligent, and financially independent person. My affection for you is based on admiration for you as a person, not on a sense of duty. Actually, you returning my feelings is a delightful surprise. Clara is a lucky fool who doesn't realize your love is priceless. Regardless of how you define our relationship, work or friends, I accept it. I'm telling you that I like you simply to let you know that your existence brings happiness to someone else. Feeling a swell of emotion, I muttered, "Thank you. I needed to hear that tonight." I gathered myself and handed over the bank card I had prepared. Let's keep it a professional relationship for now. Chloe didn't seem surprised. She took the card and extended her hand to me. Would the boss like a hug from a friend? I hesitated, but then leaned in for a hug. She wrapped her arms around me gently, carrying a comforting warmth. Even in such warmth, I felt inexplicably aggrieved. Chloe didn't say anything, just gently patted my back until I drifted into sleep. The next day we set off. The climb was challenging, but I made it to the top. We camped at the peak, and as dawn broke, unveiling the panoramic view of the snowy mountains, I finally felt a real sense of a fresh start. Over the next 2 years, I climbed every mountain I could, sometimes with Chloe, sometimes alone. Clara contacted me from time to time. Somehow, even when I changed my number, she found a way to reach me. I never replied. One day, Chloe and I were at a cafe below a glacier, and I saw Clara sitting alone at a table. I whispered to Chloe, then walked over to Clara. "Say what you need to say," I said. Clara's dark eyes pinned on me. "Leo, come back, and I'll give you whatever you want." Her hand holding her coffee cup was tense. She was still wearing the engagement ring, now set with the diamond snowflake. "I can overlook, Chloe. Leo, I love you. I always have. I just didn't know how to deal with it. So many things went wrong. I hated that you wouldn't stand by my side, and I was always questioning if you loved me or the White family's money. I never touched those other men." I looked at Clara, feeling completely calm. Though we were physically close, she seemed distant, further away than the mountains and glaciers surrounding us. Softly, I said, "Clara, after all these years, do you still not know if I love you? You just assumed I would always be here, waiting, providing a safe outlet for your feelings. That isn't what love means to me." Clara's face went pale, and she started talking quickly. "I learned to love you, Leo. I've really, really missed you." I looked at her quietly. She had saved me once, but she had squandered my love in endless suspicion. I am still grateful to her for what she did, but I choose not to love her anymore. "It's over, Clara," I interrupted. Once I made up my mind, there was no turning back. I stepped outside the cafe and saw Chloe waiting by the car. I nudged her. "Let's get ready to climb Mount Rosa." Together, we conquered Rosa Mountain. The weather was perfect, as if the mountain spirits themselves were welcoming us. At the peak, as I made a wish for my grandmother, I saw Chloe close her eyes in prayer. I leaned in quietly, grinning as her breathing turned flustered. Holding her hand, I said, "The mountain spirits here are powerful, so our wishes will come true." Chloe squeezed my hand tightly, her cheeks flushed and her blue eyes shining brightly. My gaze wandered over the serene and vast snowy peaks. The past remained behind me. I knew there were more summits waiting for me in the journey of life ahead.